For your time. Well, shifting focus to the edible oil business then, and I caught up with the managing director of Adani Wilmar, Anshu Malik, last week and spoke to him about the growth in the edible oil sector, the government regulations and the company's own strategy. I began by asking him about how he sees the industry going forward, given the current higher import picture.
First, the imports were much higher in the early part of the year, and that is because the consumption story was very, very strong. Against an average consumption growth of 5%, 7%, we saw 25% growth in branded oil. And you can say on an overall, it was around 14, 15% growth. The biscuit industry, the baking industry, everybody has consumed more in April, May, June. July onwards, the consumption story dropped a bit, but the imports were not dropping. And that is because we all felt that the festive seasons needs more consumption. So we were preparing for it. And this year, the brands were prepared for it. That is how the imports were high. And today, we are sitting on high inventory.
How would you look at the Indian edible oil industry? Would you say it's very competitive? Would you say there is... We also see more startups coming in, wood-pressed, more blended oils, rice bran. I mean, looking at the kind of fads that they're in and the health consciousness that people are getting into, how would you read the industry?
I think the entire country's demographic pattern, if you see the young population, more girls going to college, more women going to workplace, these are all bringing in more income. And with more education, more income, the demand for better brands, more hygienic brands, more quality conscious brands or value for money but functional brands people are looking for it. And that is why cold press or organic and all this, although they may be very small in terms of percentage, but yes, it's a niche product and people are asking for it. Particularly the women force who are going to work, and then when they see everything happening, they are upgrading themselves, and that is the best part of it. The country will consume good brands and good quality products.
The other thing is that almost everybody from the industry has been projecting at higher per capita consumption going forward. What do you think is the reason for that, and from where we stand, where do we see ourselves by, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years?
See, when you look at per capita consumption, you see Pakistan at around 1920, you see Bangladesh at around 1920, China at 24, we were at 17. 17 is surely less. There are states like UP, Bihar, where the average consumption is 10 kilo because they can't afford so much. Now that the edible oil prices have come down, the affordability has increased. And that is why when a poor man buys oil, they don't buy on liter, or they buy 100 rupees oil. Now at 100 rupees, earlier he was getting, say, 1 liter. Yeah. Today he is getting 1.5 liter. And that is why the consumption story is so good. And this will continue till the time the edible oil prices are at these levels, stable levels. Second, if you see, out-of-home consumption has grown tremendously. And out-of-home, you will agree that we consume more oil when we go out, because the vegetable or the food that we buy or eat has more oil content than what we have at home. So the per capita consumption increases. Then you have the bake products, cakes, pastries, and then frying products and all that, namkeen and all that. I think everybody is enjoying. And you go out and you see how people enjoy the holidays. So I think overall edible oil consumption will grow.
As an industry, how would you look at various measures that we keep seeing coming in from the government, which we are assuming will continue for the next 1 year as well? But the duty, explaining your stock holdings, etc. How does industry see that?
I think the government must not bring in too many rules, regulations. Stock control orders or anything are not productive these days. You see, these rules were of long time back when India was not so developed. Today, your warehouses are much, much bigger. If you keep stocks in your warehouse, more than 5,000 tons we can keep at a place, then it comes in that stock control order, you can't do it. Then our supply chain gets impacted. So all big companies will face this problem. So I think it is not, it is detrimental to better supply chain. When you look at the government duty structure and all this, they must have some slab at which if it goes below this, then you put a duty. If it goes above this, you reduce the duty, so that there is a semblance of the rate. you have to ensure that your farmer community is happy. Otherwise, the poor man produces but is not sure about his return. And how will he produce more oilseed? And India is importing 65% of its requirement, which is pretty high. And in a bad year, it can be very, very bad. And we have seen how things happened when Ukraine war.
Right.
So I think we should prepare ourselves. So a balance between consumer and producer must be there.
A final question. So, all companies talk about branding, marketing, making meaningful penetrations into the markets as well. What has been your strategy?
See, we have built Fortune as our brand for the last 23 years. And over the years, we have invested in it. And we have grown it. Today, obviously, it's the largest selling brand. But it gives us a lot of stability in terms of pricing, in terms of risk management, in terms of absorbing the shakers, ups and downs in the edible oil market. At least the brand protects us. And today, 75% of the business comes from the brand. So we have a shock absorber, I would say, and a good shock absorber. So as a brand, it helps us. Now, that is what I would always say, companies must go and build brand so that eventually the brands protect you.
Absolutely. Very well said, Mr. Malik. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was an interesting conversation with Adani Wilmar on their edible oil business, where as he said that Fortune is a brand absorber and they have built it quite strong in last 23 years. And during the festivals, the expectation is that, one, there are enough stocks, but the expectation is that the demand is going to be on the higher side as well, especially with people going out, eating out and traveling, etc. But with that, it's time for another break. Coming up, we speak to Rajiv Shah of Everest Foods and Kirandeep Swani of Swani Spices on the outlook for this sector as we return.